You've excused yourself from a meeting to cry in a bathroom. You've watched someone else get the news you were dreading and cried for them. You've felt your eyes sting at a commercial, at a song you've heard 100 times, at nothing almost. And then came the thing nobody talks about, the part after, the walk back in, the face you had to put on, the quiet decision to never let that happen again. You weren't falling apart. You were running a different kind of brain. That's what sensory processing sensitivity actually is, and what it's been doing to you your entire life. It shows up somewhere specific for you. Maybe it's at work. Someone gives you feedback in front of the group. Not cruel, just direct. And you feel it coming, that pressure behind your eyes. And you spend the next 4 seconds trying to will it away. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, you replay it for the rest of the day. Not the feedback, the moment your face changed. That's the overthinking loop. And it's not weakness. It's a system stuck in high gear. Or maybe it's in relationships. Someone you love is hurting. They tell you what happened. And before you've even formed a response, you're crying before they are. They end up comforting you, and you go home feeling like something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You absorbed their pain because your brain is built to do exactly that, at a cost. Or it's music. Or a documentary about strangers on the other side of the world. Or a moment of beauty so sudden it knocks you sideways. You don't choose it. It chooses you. And the question that follows, the one you've been asking in private, is whether this is just how you're wired, or whether something somewhere went wrong. The answer is more unsettling than either option. In 1997, psychologists Elaine Aron and Arthur Aron at Stony Brook University published research in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology that identified something they called sensory processing sensitivity. It's not a disorder. It's a trait, a consistent, measurable difference in how the central nervous system picks up, processes, and responds to information. Their research found it in roughly 20% of the human population and in over 100 other species. What does that mean practically? Most people's nervous systems filter. They take in the room, decide what matters, and move on. People with high sensory processing sensitivity don't filter the same way. They take in everything, every emotional signal, every shift in tone, every layer of what's happening, and process it more deeply than the people around them. That's why the feedback at work didn't just land, it echoed. That's why your friend's pain didn't just register, it transferred. This is where emotional intelligence stops being a soft skill and starts looking like a biological reality. Then, in 2014, neuroscientist Bianca Acevedo and her team at the University of California, Santa Barbara scanned the brains of people with high sensory processing sensitivity using fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, a tool that shows which parts of the brain are active in real time. What they found changed how researchers understand this trait. When these individuals viewed emotional images, particularly of people they cared about, their brains showed significantly stronger activation in regions connected to awareness, empathy, and self-other processing. The insula, your brain's interoception center, the region that registers your own emotional body states, lit up harder. The mirror neuron networks, the systems that make you feel what someone else is feeling, were more active. These weren't people choosing to be more affected. Their brains were structurally doing more. And here's what makes it darker. The same system that makes you cry at a documentary, that makes you feel your friend's grief in your own chest, that system doesn't switch off. It runs all the time. At work, in crowds, in quiet moments that shouldn't feel heavy. The sensitivity doesn't clock out. Which means you're not crying easily. You're paying a tax on a brain that never fully stops receiving. Now, here's what you can actually do with it. The first one addresses the nervous system that never stops receiving. The technique is called stimulus control. It's a behavioral psychology method, not a relaxation trick. Stimulus control means you deliberately shape your environment to reduce the load on an already overloaded input system. Here's how you actually do it in two different situations. At work, you identify the specific triggers that push your system into overflow. Back-to-back high-stakes meetings, open plan noise, feedback with no warning. You don't avoid them, you buffer them. You schedule 10 minutes of low input time after anything high intensity. Not to decompress, to let your nervous system stop processing before the next wave of input hits. In relationships, you practice disclosing your sensitivity threshold before you're already in overflow, not after you've cried. Before. When I'm carrying a lot, I absorb other people's emotions faster than usual. I'm not falling apart, I just need a few minutes. That one sentence changes the dynamic entirely. You get time, they stop feeling like they caused something. The second tool addresses the loop, the overthinking replay of every moment your face showed something you didn't want to show. The technique is called cognitive reappraisal. Developed through extensive research at Stanford University under psychologist James Gross, whose work on emotion regulation has been cited thousands of times. Cognitive reappraisal means you change the frame around an experience, not the experience itself. Here's how it works in real life. After a moment where you cried in front of someone, instead of running the loop, "Why did I do that? What do they think of me?" you redirect the narrative once, deliberately. My brain registered something real. It responded. That's information, not a malfunction. You say it out loud if you have to, because the brain that's wired for depth is also wired to replay. Reappraisal gives it something different to run. In professional settings, this rebuilds self-awareness over time, not by suppressing the response, but by changing what the response means to you. Here's the thing nobody says about people who cry easily. You've spent years trying to feel less, but the research doesn't point that direction. It points at a brain doing something most brains aren't built to do: picking up signals that others miss, processing them deeper, and carrying the weight of that, without anyone telling you it was weight at all. You weren't broken. You were undiagnosed as capable. So let me ask you this, and drop it in the comments, because I want to know, what's the most unexpected thing that's ever made you cry? Not a funeral, not a breakup, the weird one, the one you've never told anyone. If this hits something, subscribe. Next video, the psychology of people who feel nothing. The other side of the same system. The glitch was always there. Now you can see it. I'll see you in the next one.